In this video, we are going to complete the assignment to write a test for our vet controller. So up on the screen here, I do have the vet controller. I am going to come up here and hit Option Enter. And you can see that IntelliJ brings up a dialog, and I'm going to say Create Test. And you see it's asking for JUnit 5. And I know that I'm going to need a setup method. So I'm going to say that and then create a test for that. Say OK. And yes, I wanted that to get. Now, one trick I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and split this. So my test is going to be down at the bottom. I'm going to close the one on the top, and we'll be working with this. So now I can see that I want a map service. So let's come in here and create a map service. Like so. And now in my setup, let's say vet service. It goes new. Vet map service, like so. And that creates my implementation. And that wants a specialty service, so let's come in here, like that. You can see how I'm kind of doing dependency injection here. I'm setting up the test. So now that's my vet service is now ready. Now the next thing we need to do is set up our controller. And I'm just completing all the steps for the setup method of the test. And that's going to take in the vet service, like so. So now we can see the setup is creating that vet controller. Now let's come down here. And we can see this is looking for a model. And this is coming out of our faux spring. And what we can do, remember up here, we have our fake spring stuff. So I'm going to come down here and let's in test. It's going to be a test mock. So I'm not going to create it in the main package. I'm going to create it down here. And what I want to do is create a new package. I've got a typo there. And come here, do a new Java class. So I'm calling this model map implementation. And in the Java community, generally, you just, when you're extending out a interface, you can do IMPL. That's generally accepted, unless there's some type of specialization or something to make it distinct. Then you want to give it a common name. Now I'm going to create an implementation of model that's backed by a hash map. So that's why I'm doing model map impl to indicate that it's an indication of a map implementation. So remember, we have our model here. So now I'm going to say this implements. And now you can see IntelliJ here is not happy. So we're going to go ahead and add in these methods. And this one here, we're not going to be using this. So here, so I'm just creating a very simple operation here. So I'm creating a map. Now notice that we have an add attribute. So we're going to get a key and object. So now when I want to come down here and say my map dot put key object, like so. Very, very simple. So we don't need anything complex. Again, we're going through the manual step of creating a mock object for our model implementation. So remember this, it's coming from our fake spring or our faux spring package. So we're mimicking what Spring does with a model. So in an MVC situation, we're going to have a model getting passed into the controller. Let's come back to our test now. Now we can see model equals model map impl, the one that we just wrote. And again, I put it in the test context, so of course it's going to be available to our test. So now we say model, like so. I'm going to use assert that. Remember, we put in the assert J. So let's go ahead and do that. Assert that. And take a look at our view. Copy that. Is equal to view. Let's clean that up a little bit. Now let's run our test, see if we have a passing test. So that is good. Now the one problem that we have is that we don't have anything being added to our model, and that's because our service doesn't have anything. So remember our vet map service is going to be saving vets. So let's take a quick look at the vet object. You see that extends out a person. So let's come in here, back to our test. We're going to minimize our test window. Take a quicker look at that. Okay, so we only have the one constructor there, so it's asking for some properties there. So let's come in and do vet 1L. And remember the assignment, we said that we're going to be creating 2 vets. So we'll give them a 2L and call him Jimmy Smith. And we're not going to bother with the specialty. So I'm putting in the minimum stuff that I need to do to complete the test and assignment. And now what we need to do is add these 2 to our vet service. And remember, we have the save option there. So we're going to do vet 1. So what I've done here is you can see now in my setup method, I'm doing a lot more complex stuff. I'm adding in the specialty service, the vet service, creating the controller, and now I'm setting up some data because for every test I want to run, I want to make sure that I have 2 vets on that list. Now we can add in additional assertion now. You can say assert that our model let's call it public. Actually, let's do a getter for that. So we'll be able to get our map object. So we come back over to our test, insert that model, get map dot. And what we want to take a look at is we have our entry set. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Or actually, we do have a size method, so that's exactly what I want. Size is equal to 2. So what I'm inserting is that our model map is going to be equal. We're going to get a map off of that, and it's going to be equal to 2. So let's go ahead and run that now. Null pointer. What are we getting null pointer for? Not happy with specialties being empty. So let's go fix that. So I could either fix the code to pay attention to size. And actually, let's fix that. That's going to be easier to get specialties. So I'm putting a null check in there. So let's see if that works now. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. I got something going wrong with my test. And not quite sure what it is. And we're going to do some debugging here. So let's come in. Come back to our vet controller. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a breakpoint here because I want to see what's going on within everything. So I'm going to bring this up in the debugger. What I can do is come up here and say run debug like so. So this is probably the easiest way to go through and troubleshoot. So I have a map. So I have hash map vets size 2. Okay. So it's a problem with my test. So what I want to say is get map dot get. And what I didn't do is I'm looking for the key vet. So that was my mistake. And the problem is that it doesn't know that that is actually going to be a hash set. So let's come back here. We need to do a little refactoring of our test now. So let's say set model get map, and we want to get vets. So we're going to need to do a cast here. So now we can refactor our assertion. So I'm just going to stop the debugger, and let's come back over to the run dialog and see if we get that working properly. Now, again, my small mistake there. And there we go. Our test is now working. And just to recap, my problem was there is I went into the hash map, and on that hash map is actually a set that's being implemented. So when we look at the service, our implementation, we are actually putting that to a map, and I wasn't looking at it properly. So I had to refactor the test, but now you can see here, so rearrange things a little bit. So we had a very simple vet controller, and all it does is take in a model and returns back a string. And you can see the test here. Let's expand this out and see. Now I have a lot more complex example where I have a vet service, a specialty service that I'll need to wire up that vet controller. And then in the before method, I'm actually creating two vet objects and then saving that in the service. So now that is available. And you can see now I've gone in, I've run the controller, and then I'm creating assertion. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the string back of vet's index. And then I want to look at that model attribute as well and make sure that I'm getting the proper attribute back.